Good morning, everyone. It's Chef Pete. We're going to make Eggs Benedict this morning. And the main focus of this is we're going to make one of the mother sauces, Hollandaise, which just basically means Dutch in French. And it is a emulsified egg and butter sauce. And that's what's going to be on top of the eggs today. The other skill we're going to do today is poaching a perfect egg, which is a 3-minute poached egg in a vinegar and water solution. And we're going to do that for about 3 minutes, and that should set all our whites and keep the yolks runny, which is what you want in Eggs Benedict. So let's take a look at our mise en place. Okay, so here's what we got today. We've got eggs, of course. We need eggs to make our sauce, and we also need eggs to poach. We're using English muffins, Worcestershire sauce. White vinegar would be best, but I've got white wine vinegar here this morning, so white vinegar is absolutely the best. Salt, some sliced ham, lemons, butter to butter our English muffins with, and then we're also going to clarify butter. And what clarified butter is we're basically warming the butter and separating the fat from the other ingredients, okay, which are salts and waters and other things. So, and we want to use just that clarified butter, that fat. Now, I typically throw everything in when I mix my Hollandaise, but in a perfect world, you would just use straight clarified butter, but I don't mind those salts and those other things that go in it in mine, but you do as you like. We'll need a tray. Okay, so we're going to be toasting our English muffins on that in the oven, and then once we get the egg and the Hollandaise sauce on top of it, we're going to put it in and just sort of broil the top of it. Okay, which brings me to the oven. I'm setting it to broil, and broil just means that you've got the heat coming up just from the top. Okay, which also means that when you put something in there, it can burn quite quickly, but it's just really intense heat from the top. The rest of the oven is not really giving off any heat, okay, other than the residual that is there. The other thing that we need here is a saucepan full of water. Okay, so we're going about halfway up. I'm going to do double duty with this. So one, I'm going to use it as a double boiler, okay, when I make my Hollandaise sauce. Okay, then after that, I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to use that same water and put some vinegar and some salt in there to actually poach my eggs. So it saves you washing another saucepan. So I like that idea. We're also going to be sauteing our ham just to warm it up and give it a little bit of color. This recipe has quite a bit of butter in it. Real butter is absolutely the best thing here. It doesn't mean it can't be made with margarine or something else, but it's way better when you get the flavor of the butter, especially in that Hollandaise sauce, because that is a classic mother sauce. So we're gonna get started. Okay, so the first step that we need to take care of is we're going to clarify our butter, and we're going to do that over a very low heat. If your stovetop has a melt function, then that's what you're going to want to use. You can put that in a pan. I'm actually going to put it on a little stainless steel bowl, and I'm actually going to put it right on the burner on a super low temperature and melt that. You can also do it in the microwave if you want to, but don't use the steel bowl, obviously, right? Just use a porcelain bowl or plastic bowl or something like that. I'm doing a half recipe, so the recipe that I'm listing there is for 4 full servings, right? So that'll be 8 actual muffins with an egg on top. Okay, so I'm actually doing half of that. So I'm going with a half cup of butter. I know it seems like a lot, but butter is flavor, people. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that on that melt setting, right? And I just want to get that clarified. So you'll see the butter first initially melt, and then it'll actually separate, and you'll see the fat become completely clear. And that's what we're looking for. Okay, so let's start building the actual Hollandaise that we're going to use on top of the eggs. Because this, we're going to make it, create this emulsion, and then we're going to move it over to the side, keep it just warm until we're ready to go. This whole thing comes together quite quickly, and is absolutely delicious. And I have a great story from when I was an apprentice years and years ago. It was a Sunday morning. I was working at a tennis and country club in Aurora, and I thought that it was going to be very quiet. The chef thought it was going to be very quiet. I was the only cook who came in, me and a dishwasher, and we got a surprise breakfast for 50 people, all wanting Eggs Benedict. So I had to make Eggs Benedict for 50 people, and you can imagine what was that, with fresh fruit on the side and all this sort of thing. It was a real challenge. It was a lot of fun, but what a scary morning for a small apprentice all by himself in a kitchen. So anyway, let's get started. First thing we need to do is we're going to, again, I'm doing a half recipe. So I'm doing 2 egg yolks. So I want to take, we showed you the separation before, crack it. Okay, then we're going to, I should do this over a bowl so you could see this. There we go. Normally I would just throw those whites down the sink unless I'm going to use them for something else. So I bring it across and I'm just sort of moving that yolk back and forth until I have no more white left. I'll put that in my bowl, keep these for compost. Do the same over here. Back and forth until all I have left is the yolk in here. Pour that in. Okay, so I'll keep those, again, for my compost. These whites, I'm just going to put them down the sink, but you could save those and make a meringue, or you could do all kinds of different things with them. There we go. All right, into that we're going to squeeze about a half lemon. So you need about 3.5 tablespoons for the regular recipe. I need a little bit less than that. So one of the little tips that you can do is you can actually just squeeze it into your hand. That way, if there are any seeds, then those seeds will not go into your hollandaise sauce. Okay, and of course you could use a little juicer or something like that if you needed to. And that's basically it. Okay, so I'm going to save that for my compost as well. And I'm just quickly rinsing off my hand there, okay? So I did my full wash before I started. All right, next, pepper. If you've got white pepper, better, then you won't see any flakes in it. This one here is a bit of a mixture, so there's some white and some black pepper in there. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt. A couple of dashes of Worcestershire sauce. Okay, and then just about a teaspoon of water. And for you, it'll be a tablespoon if you're using the full recipe. So what you've got here is you've got sort of this sludgy mess here. And we're just going to start mixing that up a little bit. I'm going to transfer the view, and then we're going to to go on top of the double boiler. Okay, so before we do that, we want to make sure that our butter is clarified completely. I'll show you that when we change views here. I'll show you what the clarified butter looks like. And we're going to create an emulsion. So other emulsions that you may or may not be aware of course, is a mayonnaise. So a true mayonnaise is an emulsion. We don't basically cook it up the way we do a Hollandaise, but we have an emulsion. So eggs will naturally help emulsify things. So even if you made an oil and vinegar dressing, a vinaigrette of sorts, if you throw in an egg yolk in there, and it'll help to create and help suspend things in. So you may have seen some straight oil and vinegars, and when you get it, you know, all the vinegars on the bottom, all the oils on the top, you have to shake it and then put it on your salad. Well, a vinaigrette has usually Dijon mustard and egg yolk, and that'll help to just sort of emulsify that and keep it suspended. So you really don't have to shake it, you can just sort of pour it on. Okay, so commercial salad dressings will put in other ingredients, lecithin and different things that'll help emulsify that. And but we're looking for the natural ways, of course. All right, so I'm going to switch views, and we're going to start making our Hollandaise. So let's take a look at where we're at. Okay, so my water is pretty much reaching the boil. I want to get a nice simmer here. I don't want to boil. Okay, very important that I do not get a boil. When I put my eggs in, it will drop in temperature a little bit, but I don't want it as a rolling boil because it'll just destroy my egg. It'll separate the yolk from the white and just make a mess. It may even break the yolk, so that's horrible. All we want is a nice simmer. Okay, so make sure that you get there. Our butter, our clarified butter, is looking very, very good. It's separating, so you can see the fats coming up to the top. The other solids are dropping to the bottom. And again, in a restaurant, I would only use that clarified butter. At home, I use it all. Basically, I'm using salted butter, so that salt that goes in, I don't mind at all. So that's where we are now. I'll just put you back into position, and then we'll start creating this emulsion over the heat. Okay. Okay, welcome back. So I'm taking this bowl. So this mixture that we made before has the lemon, the yolks, the Worcestershire sauce, a little bit of salt and pepper, and a little bit of water. And I'm going to put this on here. Over the years, I've built up a bit of a tolerance to the heat here, but you may want to do this with an oven mitt or whatever. And what I'm doing is I'm doing sort of a figure 8 kind of motion here, and I'm keeping an eye on it. You'll see it start to froth up, but I don't want to cook these eggs. I don't want to make scrambled eggs in here. And you'll see that it starts to turn into a nice foam. And that's what we want. And when it's all the same type of foam, okay, so I'll show you, it's starting to foam here. You can't even see it. Oh my Lord. Okay, I wonder if I can do this without, with the camera, without burning. This is something you have to be kind of tending to here. So maybe what I'll do is I'll stop and show you a little view. Okay, so I'll just bring you over. Okay, you see how it's starting to froth up there? I have a little bit left to go. So you can see those darker parts there. I want it all to be foamy. So I'm going to continue to do that. As soon as I hit the ribbon stage, and the ribbon stage just basically means that it starts to leave tracks. It starts to leave tracks on where it separates out a little bit and then closes up. And that's what I'm looking for. So I am there. And again, I'll try to do this with you guys here. I guess I need a cameraman. So see how it sort of leaves tracks? That's where I want to be. So that's it. And this is the process of actually cooking those yolks. So that is very, very good. I'm going to change views because I don't need to do this over the steam anymore. But I'm going to make sure that this sits at a simmer because I want to use it to cook my eggs. I'm going to change views. See you in a sec. Okay, I want to stop the bowl from moving. This has to happen kind of quickly because you want the warmth to remain. You don't want it to cool too much before you're doing your emulsion. So I'm going to talk a little quickly here, but I don't want it to move very much. So here's what I typically do: take a towel, spin it around, okay, make a little holder for it like this, and then sit the bowl on top, and you'll see that you can actually move it and not have too many problems. Then I'm going to take this butter and I'm slowly going to drip into it and let it emulsify, let it absorb all that oil. And this is very similar to what you would do for a mayonnaise. As soon as I see any little slicks of oil on the top, then I want to stop. I want to make sure that it all gets absorbed. Okay? So if you see any oil slicks, just keep going. Don't put any more butter till it's all absorbed. Same thing. Now continue on. And don't go too fast because you could break this. So when we say break, it just means that it separates out. So the egg, the emulsion separates from the fat, and then it turns into a curdled mess. And we don't want that. There we go. Now because I'm at home, I'm going to add these solids in here too, and I don't mind doing that. They're flavorful. But I would never do it in a restaurant. All right, so let me show you what that consistency looks like now. That's it. Okay, so you can kind of see, it looks like, almost looks like a mayonnaise, I guess. You could look at it that way, but it's still frothy and nice. Now, in the meantime, I need to keep this warm. So since my stovetop is kind of warm, I'm gonna keep it over here. I don't wanna heat it up. I'm not putting it on direct heat. I'm just sort of keeping it warm. Okay, so you can see why a lot of restaurants might use the powdered nasty stuff just for a food safety point of view, because if it were to sit out for an hour, this could be an issue. Even though the egg is cooked, but letting it sit out there and at that temperature, and we're trying to keep it at that warm temperature. So it's very nice when you can get into a decent restaurant that's going to make a hollandaise from scratch and serve it right away. But if that sits around, this could be potential for some issues there. Okay, so now I'm going to change views once again, and we're going to poach those eggs. You know what? We should actually cook our ham first. So we're going to cook our ham first. We're going to start the process of toasting our Egg McMuffins, or Egg McMuffins. Where did that come from? Hello. Our English muffins. Okay, so I'm going to start that process. I'm going to move my water over to the side here. I'm going to bring this little tiny pan here. I'm going to put a little butter, and I'm going to saute my ham. All right, a little bit of butter. Now, you could use Canadian ham too, so back bacon. You could use that. That's very good. I know a lot of people do that. Very, very popular. You could use smoked salmon, which you would not warm it up. You would just put it on there and stick it on there. But there's so many things that you can do to vary it. Classically, ham is what you would use. So let's get some ham, some slices of ham. That's a little big, so I'm just gonna cut that one in half. Just because my English muffins are not really huge. And I may actually load these up pretty good today. So I'm gonna put a few extra pieces in there like that. Who doesn't like a little bit extra ham? Seriously. Now, ham is typically cured, smoked, a little on the saltier side, but I like to put a little pepper. There we go. That looks beautiful. Now, while that sautés, let's move views once again, and we're going to set up our English muffins to toast. So we still got the sizzle of the ham going there. I don't want to get any major darkness or anything, but a little bit of golden brown, just trying to warm it through, and I send it off to the side. So with English muffins, you could make your own, which would be great. So I had a student a couple years ago who, for his final project, decided to make Eggs Benedict, and did such a good job. He actually made his English muffins, which was very impressive. English muffins are, I'm using whole wheat today. And what they typically tell you is that you should either use a fork to break them apart, and that gives us all those nice little bumps and nice little areas for butter and stuff to congregate. But you could also use a knife if you want to and just cut it. But I always like that sort of, just rip them apart this way. And do the same over here. So over here, I've just moved my ham off and I put my water back on, and I'm trying to get it to that nice simmer just to get us ready here. Okay, so I'm going to pop these in the oven, brown them up a little bit, and then we're going to continue. So you'll see, or you won't see, but so we've got the broiler on the top. So I've moved my rack down to the second level. Okay, so there's one that's right up top, so it's right close to the heat. And yes, it will brown it really, really, really nice. But I'm trying to give it just a little bit more space. I'm actually going to toast these a little bit. I might even flip them over. We'll see how they go. So let's pop them in. Now, obviously, at this point, we want to make sure that we get our our oven mitts and have those available. Okay, so again, I don't have oven mitts at home, so I use cloths. But if you're going to use a cloth, make sure it's a clean cloth. B, it is not wet whatsoever. If you grab a hot pan with a wet cloth, it's going to steam burn you, And some might argue that that burn is almost worse than grabbing the pan just out flat out. So make sure that it's a nice dry cloth. Okay, so I'm going to grab my cloth. I'm going to check my check the toasting level here. When you use the cloth, if it's a nice clean dry cloth, make sure it's folded a couple of times. Ideally, I would rather you guys use mitts. I would never let you guys use a cloth in the kitchen at school. You guys would use mitts. Okay, but I know at home in these times, sometimes we just don't have those things. So let's check it out. Okay, they're not too bad. They need to toast a little bit more, so I'm actually going to flip them and we'll pop them back in. And I kind of want to make sure that everything's all done and ready to go before I put my eggs in, because this will come together quite quickly. Okay, and toasting the bottom is nice because it helps not absorb too many liquids in there. Okay, so we are actually poaching today, those eggs, and we're looking for about 3 minutes of poaching. Now, I'm going to bring that pan out so that I can put some butter on it. So I'm going to get a cutting board, a little wooden board, so that it doesn't sit right on here. Okay, I'm going to grab them. Looking nice and hot. We're getting some steam here, so I'm going to flip these over. I'm actually going to butter them. There we go. And then I might just toss them in just before I put those eggs in, just to warm them right back up, just to make sure they're nice and hot. And then once those eggs and the sauce are on top, we're going to put them in once again. Okay, so I'm going to switch your views now because we're going to poach those eggs. Okay, so here's how the mise en place is looking now. So the bread's ready to go here. The eggs are here. I'm ready to put my vinegar and salt in my water. My ham is all done and my Hollandaise sauce is ready. My water is beautiful. I got a little bit of a nice simmer there, and we're going to start this process. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a little bit of salt. There we go. And I'm going to go with my vinegar. So like I told you guys before, white vinegar is the best for this poaching, but I'm going to be using some white wine vinegar. That was the closest I had. I have apple cider vinegar and balsamic and all kinds of other things, but I don't have that white right now, so I'm going to use that. Okay, in a pinch, you could even use a little bit of lemon juice. You just want some sort of acidity in there. Oh wow, it's got the tiniest little spout ever. There we go. All right, so some of you may have seen Chef Ramsay talk about when you're poaching eggs to start a little bit of a spin in your water. It's a great technique, and I'm going to do it. So you're just going to sort of create a little bit of a whirlpool. Nothing crazy, okay, guys? Just a little bit of movement. And what will happen is when we drop the egg in, it'll drop in and then just start to roll around, and it'll get itself all nice and together. So I'm putting 4 eggs in here today, which is half the recipe I've given you. So same thing here, gonna drop here, and then just drop that in as close to the water as I can, and you'll see that it starts to keep spinning because there is a little bit of movement in there. And I want to watch the time because I want to poach for about 3 minutes. There. Once that's in, I'm just going to take a little serving spoon, and I'm just going to make sure that they're not getting stuck on the bottom. There we go. And now let's mark that time. So we're looking at 3 minutes from here. So I'll just show you what that kind of looks like. That's where they're at. Okay, so we need 3 minutes from there. Now, in the meantime, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my English muffins back in, and I'm just going to get a little bit more brown on top of them, and then I'm going to keep my eye on that time. All right, see you in a bit. All right, 3 minutes has passed. Okay, and my English muffins are good. Take those out, put them on that wooden board. Now I need to take off these eggs. Okay, so what I'm going to do is with this spoon, if you've got a slotted spoon, even better. But what I'm going to do is I'm just sort of picking them up, and I'm going to try to get as much of that water off as I can, that poaching liquid. Okay, and you'll see, let me see if you can see. Yeah, you can sort of see how it's set and it's still nice and liquid on the inside. So I'm going to get those out as fast as I can. I want to stop the cooking process. And I'm putting them in this bowl mainly to get rid of some of the water. I don't want to put a wet egg on that English muffin because it's going to take away from everything that's beautiful about it. Gorgeous. Okay, so I can see that these eggs are now just beautiful. Okay, they're set. You can see that the liquid is still runny on the inside, and that's exactly what we want for that. Now, there may be people out there who don't like them runny, then just cook them longer. It's not a big deal. Okay, I'm going to switch views, and we're going to build these. All right, so I'm going to take these off for a quick second. These have just been toasted. You guys may have noticed that I'm a real parchment guy, and I love parchment paper. So we're going to put these back over here. We're going to put the ham on them. We're going to be kind of on the generous side, I think, with that ham, which is great. This will also create a barrier just in case there's a little extra liquid on those eggs. And we're going to want to make sure that we cover those nicely here, like that. Okay, and you can see why you'd have to be kind of organized and quick on this stuff, because you don't want this stuff getting cold, right? All right, the next piece, these eggs. So we're going to put these eggs on, and once again, even though we put them in this bowl to try to get rid of some of the liquid, we want to make sure that we do the exact same thing here. Any extra liquids, try to get them out of there. Like that. Like that. And like that. Gorgeous. Like that. Okay, so now the Hollandaise sauce. If I've kept it warm and everything's all good, I should have a nice sauce, which I do. There we go. We're going to put some of that on there. Like that. Now, some at this point wouldn't throw it back in the oven. I like to just get a little bit of, just a slight little browning on the top. Sorry, I like to go a little overboard on this stuff here. There we go. All right. Going to pop these in under my broiler, and then we'll see you for the plating. Okay, so I've just got a little bit of browning on the top, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to serve these up. And that's Eggs Benedict, people. Great breakfast, I'll tell you. Great flavor. And again, you're using one of those mother sauces, Hollandaise, the Dutch sauce. Okay, so very tasty. You want to make friends, you can do this. And again, you can kick this up in any way that you want. Smoked salmon, Canadian bacon, whatever. I mean, you can go wild with it. All right, anyways, hope that inspires you to give Eggs Benedict a try and try your hand at a fresh, good, non-packaged Hollandaise sauce. Have a great day.